If you've lost everything and you're having to start again, I'm going to show you 8 tips to get you back on your feet. Thank you for joining me on this Starting Over Emergency Toolkit. So why have I called it the Emergency Toolkit? Well, if you're finding yourself in a situation at 60 or over, or coming up to 60, where you've lost everything, maybe a business, maybe a career, maybe a relationship, and then you're finding yourself in a place of despair with nothing, not knowing where to go, where to look, then you're in the right place. Happened to me. What I'm going to do in this podcast is to share with you 8 or 9 things that I did when I found myself in that situation. Point 1 is mindset, and it's always a difficult one, and it's different for every person, and every person's situation is different. But if it's anything like mine, I had some anxiety. I had 2 businesses that became insolvent. I had a relationship that broke down, so I had no money coming in. I'd lost money in previous years, so it's been a struggle over the last few years. And I found myself homeless on the 20th September 2022. So what did I do? What could I do? Running up to that, I had different anxieties and fears about what would happen, and didn't really know what to do. And it wasn't until I walked out of the door of the rented accommodation that I had with my partner at the time, for the last time, that it dawned on me that, crikey, look, this has happened. I'd never dreamt, if I rolled the clock back to when I was in my teens or early 20s, never would I have thought that when I'm 60 I'd be homeless and broke. Nobody thinks that, but we live in crazy times, and it's topsy-turvy, and it can happen to anyone. So the first thing I had to do is to get my mindset leading up to the point of time in which I walked out into the fresh air and had nowhere to go, no money. It was an anxious time. I was in fear, I was in anxiety, and nothing could have prepared me for that moment. And it seemed quite surreal. Where do I go now? Do I walk up the road or do I walk down the road? Where do I go from here? And in fact, I have recorded a video which I'll share with you separately of me. You see me coming out the door and feeling like I was a failure. I couldn't get my business back up and running. I couldn't even hold a relationship down. All sorts of things. I'm no good. Where's my why? What's my purpose in life? I don't even see my family, and all of that. Yet when I walked out that door, the shitstorm had happened. And do you know what? Sometimes a shitstorm is a sign of clearing out bad karma. If you feel suddenly at ease afterwards. I mean, I walked out that door and I suddenly felt a weight off my shoulders, and so I knew that something had happened. It was almost like a kairos moment, I don't know, call it what you want, an epiphany, but suddenly I was no longer in the same fear that I had or anxiety. It was different. It was a moment of kind of freedom, if you like. And I know that can't be complacent, and looking back on that moment, things did change. There was a shift. Having said that, in weeks, I'd had some ups and downs, and not to be complacent, that the dark cloud can come over you just when you're not expecting it for a couple of hours, and you feel a sense of gloom and doom, or impending doom, come over you. And then the next minute you could be up and elated and high and thinking, this is great. And then the next moment it's, where did that come from? I'm in impending doom again. So the most important thing is to just know and be aware that the mindset and the feelings, the emotions will be like a roller coaster. But that's kind of the way it goes, and it went with me. And from where I am now, I'm in a good place, and I'll share with you my tips of what I did to help me to get to where I am. So the first thing then, tip number one was mindset, and I went for lots of walks, changed my situation. When I felt down and gloomy, walk, breathe, do some press-ups, sit-ups, just change my physical and mental state. And it generally got the blood oxygen flowing around, and I felt much better. But know that you're going to get through it. That's the main thing. And it's very difficult when you lose your sense of your why and your purpose for living. But keep going, keep your chin up. Walk around with a smile on your face. Even if you don't feel like putting a smile on your face, just smile, smile at people and they'll smile back. Just little things that will give you a little uplift, But keep your chin up, keep going, because you will get through it. Just keep walking. And one of the things I found that helped me a lot was to stop the chatter, stop the negative conversation in my mind. And the way that I did that was to listen to the sounds around me and to observe the sights around me and just focus on that. And I found it meant there was an empty space. I wasn't thinking, I was just listening and watching and observing. And what an amazing thing. It's almost like you get a mind. Sometimes it's difficult to stay listening and observing for very long, but I tested myself to see if I could do it for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Can I carry on doing it till I get to the end of the road? And it does get better, and you'll find that helps a lot as well. So point number one, mindset, you will get through it. Keep going. So tip number two is, of course, you need a roof over your head. So what I did, I thought about this, and I wouldn't have had enough money to get a deposit for a flat. I probably wouldn't have passed the vetting process that a professional HMO or a estate agent would want you to go through. So I was lucky to get lodgings, and this is what gave me the idea. So I'd come out of the flat. I had a conversation with somebody who I'd been to a networking event, met at a networking event. It just so happened what you're up to, what you're doing, and I said, well, I'm homeless. I've just left my flat and I've got no money and nowhere to go at the moment. And they were kind enough to say, well, come and stay at my place, and there's a space there. So I went there, and very kind enough to do that. And also they were kind enough to give me a lodgings agreement. Now, why is that important? Well, I'll come on to that in a moment, and I'd like to go on to point number three first. So the point number three is I found myself a commissions only sales job. Now, the thing with a commissions only sales job, even if you're 60, you're likely to get it. Even if you're a professional and you apply for lots of jobs, you haven't got a job in your own profession, probably a commission only door-to-door sales or cold calling sales job, you'll probably get it, because there's no skin off their nose if you don't make any sales. And you can do this as self-employed, and that's important to do it self-employed. So once you find your lodgings, you've got a lodgings agreement, and you've got a job, you've got a contract to do commission only sales, and you're self-employed, then apply for Universal Credit. So with Universal Credit, what they'll do is, if you're self-employed, you're gainfully self-employed, which your commission-only sales job will give you a contract, so you've got some proof. And your lodgers agreement will give you proof of lodgings. Universal Credit for self-employed people will cover you for a year, and you'll be able to earn up to, I think it's about £500 per month. Plus they'll give you some money for some food and money towards your lodgings. So that will give you an opportunity to buy yourself some time, give yourself a breathing space, and just get yourself together. And that's what I did, and that's worked really well for me. And so once you've got to that point, and that's the most crucial, that's the kind of emergency toolkit part of it. So applying for Universal Credit, by the way, is point 4. And so point 1, 2, 3 and 4 are the first things to get a roof over your head, buy yourself some breathing space. So get your mindset right, find lodgings, get a lodging agreement, find a commissions only sales job, self-employed with a contract, and then apply for Universal Credit. And at least that way you've got some roof over your head, you've got some money for food, and you can then buy yourself some breathing space. And that's so important, some head space, so you can sit down, get yourself a blank sheet of paper, which is point number 5, and then just stare at the blank piece of paper and write down what your passions are, how you can turn your passions into profit, what you're good at, how you can turn that into profit, and just write a list and then leave it, and then you can come back to it. So the next thing to do, point number 6, is to sign up for some free events. And I found this was important to stop me drifting. Is a marker in your calendar that you've got an appointment, you've got a thing to do each week. And the first thing I did, I signed up for the Brighton and Hove Park Run. So that I know that happens at 9 in the morning every Saturday. So I made a point of 9 o'clock Saturday mornings, I'm there doing the Brighton Hove Run. It's a 5k run, the park run, and they probably do them near where you are as well. And if you like that sort of thing, that's something you can put down to give you some regularity out of all the chaos going on around you in your life. It might be something else. You might prefer to sign up for another free event, something different, something that you're interested to. It might be a free art class, it might be a free chess club, crib club, lots of different things you can do. You could sign up with maybe a dramatics club. There's all different things, and they meet at a certain time of day, and that'll help you to meet other people as well and make you feel like you're still contributing to yourself and to the world. But more importantly, that first appointment is for you, that you're important, that you're the one that you're meeting, that you're the one that you're not going to let down. It's the most important meeting of the week, and nobody's going to be able to put in its place. It's one that needs to be kept. It's almost like you've got a meeting with royalty and you're going to keep it. So it's very, very important that you keep that, and that's entirely for you. I also joined a choir, and they may even have one near you. It's called the Choir with No Name, and I'd never sung in a choir or done anything like that before, but I went along, and there was an amazing array of people there that have hit on bad times, or they were marginalised, people that have been marginalised for one reason or another, or they've been homeless for one reason or another. But these people, there was such a people there, people that have had businesses, professions, singing careers, artists, amazing, not what and so they were there, and we sang together, we sing together, and that's a Monday night, 6 o'clock, and I know I'm going to be there. So that's another appointment I put in my diary. And I can tell you another story about that another time. And it's so uplifting to feel that you're making a contribution, and it starts to get your mojo going again. So that's something that I would thoroughly recommend you do. So the other thing I did and was uplifting is I applied to do some voluntary work for just a couple of hours a week to help homeless people, to serve food, serve drinks, get to know people, such a thing, and in that way, at least I know I'm still making a contribution to the world. I'm still useful. There's still things I can do. If I can carry 2 plates, I can be useful. And that was point number 6, I do believe. Now, I could get these points muddled up, but I will recap over them, and as long as they're all there, they may not be in the right order, but as long as they're all there and you pick them all up, hopefully that will give you an emergency plan to get yourself back up and running. So I've talked about volunteering. The other thing is meditate in the mornings if you can. Go for a walk in the mornings if you can. Get some exercise if you can. They're very important things to help you get a positive outlook on life. So I think I've covered 8 points. So first thing, mindset. Get yourself in a positive mindset, and you will get through this anyway. Number 2 is find lodgings, get a lodgings agreement. Number 3, get yourself a commissions only sales job. Number 4 is apply for universal credit. Number 5, a blank sheet of paper and write down your passions, how you can turn them into profits. Number 6, a free event that you can put a marker down a calendar, an event that you must get to, because it's an appointment with you, the most important person in the world. Make sure you make that, and that gives you some sort of structure out of the chaos that's going on in your life. So you might choose to join 1 or 2 events during the week and get them in your calendar. And the other thing is to volunteer for something. Give yourself a sense of giving back, so volunteer just a couple of hours a week, maybe on a Wednesday afternoon or something that you can volunteer for. And then in the mornings, meditate, get yourself some exercise, get moving, get some of that light into your eyes, and do some exercise, keep healthy. And in the next podcast, I'll talk about healthy exercise, diet, what you can do on a very low budget. And if you managed to listen right to the very end, thank you so much. You're a legend, and I look forward to sharing with you in the next podcast.